Hello and welcome to the Birthright podcast. I'm Taylor, and I'll be your sister and your guide on this journey into all things being a woman. No stone gets left unturned on this podcast, and I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. So I want to paint a picture for you. I am walking down a hillside in Oregon in a line with 60 women of all generations from ages 14 to 75. We're singing and chanting, and there's a drum being played. And we're walking down the hillside to the river. At the river, we peel off every bit of clothing that is on our body, and one by one, we're cleansed with a palm frond that's been dipped in the water. And we're asked to release whatever is not serving us and to hold the prayer of our matriarchal line and to trust that we are the living, walking prayer of the women who came before us, and to give gratitude to them, to give gratitude for everything that these women have gone through in order for us to be experiencing this level of gathering and communing and freedom. And then we all got to sit in the river, all of us naked with our little heads sticking out. It was a sight I will never, ever, ever forget. And this was just one of my experiences at Spirit Weavers. On today's episode, I want to talk to you about what it's like to go to an all-women's festival, because I did not just go to one, but I went to two in the month of June this year. I went to both Spirit Weavers in Oregon and Earth Daughters in Canada, both incredible festivals that I really can't recommend enough. And I just want to talk to you about what my experience was like in going to those, why I went, what was challenging for me, and if I'll be going back. So I hope you enjoy today's episode. So I am no stranger to festivals. I have been to many music festivals where I have partied my face off and had a lot of fun, but left feeling pretty drained and like I needed quite some time for recovery. So deciding to go to two festivals that I knew were going to have such a different flavor was completely unique to me from the jump. This was going to be my first time solo camping, literally getting on a plane with all of my camping gear in a suitcase, my tent, my sleeping bag, my sleeping pad, all of my provisions. That was a whole new experience, and maybe I could do another episode on camping because I'm a camping girl now. But I felt very self-sufficient, and I chose this on purpose. I chose to go to these two festivals by myself, by the way. I didn't go with a group of girlfriends. I was choosing to enter into these realms to see what gifts were there for me, and just to have an open mind and to not have a group dynamic be flavoring the texture of my experience. And I can tell you what, I left both of those festivals feeling so rested, so restored, so rejuvenated, and reflective, very reflective upon gathering with so many women. So the first thing I'll talk about for my experiences was the really lived 3D experience of the village that it is so hard for us to get in our four walls sometimes. One thing that stood out to me so much about both events is the tenderness and care that was given to mothers. And this is something I've really taken away with me of if you see a mom juggling babies, trying to put her luggage in the upper rack or to get things out of the cart to check out at the grocery store, help her. Go up and ask, I'd love to help. Can I do anything for you? And that was really the essence of these events, is they made it a theme and a highlight, especially Spirit Weavers, of mothers get to go to the head of every line, that there's a time where volunteers can show up and support moms who are ready to take a shower. And just that anytime you see a mom with a baby, just ask if she needs anything, even if she doesn't look like she's struggling. And I just was like, damn, that is so powerful, because I think that moms go underappreciated. They're holding so much together, and it was just really, really powerful for me as a woman who wants to have children to see women coming to an event like this with maybe even multiple babies and multiple children that they're bringing, and they're getting to immerse their child in this type of environment and to feel so supported while doing it. Because if that wasn't happening, then they couldn't be there. And so that's one thing I'm taking away, is providing and offering more support to mothers out in the world, because I certainly know when I'm a mom, I would love to have someone ask if I need anything, because the answer will probably be yes. And there was also an element of self-responsibility. So there's the communal care that's happening within the village, but there's also just radical self-reliance, which is one of the principles of Burning Man. And I've been to Burning Man a couple of times and have really learned that lesson, but I loved seeing it in a different context outside of the dust of the playa, and really getting to experience what you need to do to take care of yourself when you're in an environment that can be overstimulating, that you might not know anyone, that you're camping, that you can't control the weather, all of these things. It's so important that you're taking care of yourself. And I loved that Spirit Weavers had this whole station for self-care. They had all kinds of herbs and electrolytes and a first aid kit. And it's like, hey, we've got you if you need us, but your first job is to take care of yourself. And I really appreciated that. Another favorite aspect of the village environment for me was the rituals of opening and closing and acknowledging the land and the water. Both of these festivals are set on just gorgeous landscapes, on rivers, and on indigenous land where those indigenous peoples get to be named and recognized and brought in, and their songs are shared. And it was really like the land and the water were just as much participants as everyone who's there. And I just really appreciated the tenderness that went into caring for the land. At the end of Spirit Weavers, they announced that there was only 12 bags of trash. That's like unheard of. I literally just had chills run through my body, because every time I've gone to a music festival and I see the amount of plastic and trash that is left on the ground by festival goers, it just irritates me and breaks my heart. And I'm like, yeah, thank goodness there's people that are hired to clean up, but can't we all take care of this a little bit more? So 12 bags of trash, and, if you see something, pick it up. All of these principles that are so important for us to live, that we can bring into our modern lives. Help save the planet. There were also fires that were really the central point of each festival. This was the gathering point, and they were tended to 24/7. They were lit during the opening ceremony, and they were extinguished in the closing ceremony. And I just loved the symbolism of the fire being constantly tended to, a place that you can go to pray, to dance, to cry, to let something go, to come to in the middle of the night to find some warmth. And last thing with the village, the way you can make someone feel really, really good is by just remembering their name. So just an invitation to remember to actually pay attention when someone tells you what their name is. Right, Batman? We want to respect our friends and tell them our names and listen to theirs. And when we see them around, go in and say, hello, Victoria. So good to see you. When someone remembered my name, I just felt tickled. So it's just one of those simple things as a human that I think we can continue to do in our real lives. If you see the same grocery clerk all the time, ask them their name. Let's bring some more humanness to our day-to-day lives. Now, let's talk about elders. One of the things I was most surprised to see at both of these events was the number of elders that were part of the panels, that were part of putting on the events, that were leaders in the workshops, and also the participants. I met women up into their 80s that were coming to these events, and that really shifted a lot for me because I was able to see their vitality, their zest for life, their radiance. And I was like, this is exactly how I want to be living in 50 years when I'm 80 years old. And it's really had a lasting impact on me. I started attending a women's circle here that I was invited to by an 84-year-old woman. And everyone in the circle is 60 plus years old for the most part. And I absolutely love it. I've always been really comfortable around older people, but I have grown to be so much more craving of being in an elder's presence because it really asks the question of what kind of ancestor do I want to be? How do I want to be remembered? The matriarchal healing experience that I talked about in the opening of this episode was led by a woman named Grandmother Sarah at Spirit Weavers. And she was in her mid 70s, I believe. And the amount of wisdom that this woman had, I was like, this is the kind of elder that I want to sit around the fire with and just listen to all night long. And I want to be that type of elder as well, and that type of ancestor where I'm passing along the knowledge that I'm learning and just being so generous in my own experience of life and how much I take into learning. And how much importance I put on continuing my own personal development so that when I gain this wisdom and life experience that I will have valuable stories and things to share. I love that question. What kind of ancestor do you want to be? Another incredible part of these festivals was the body freedom and the full permission slip to express yourself. When I got to Spirit Weavers, I saw naked women on day one. And just for context, Spirit Weavers has between 700 and 800 women that go over 2 weekends. And Earth Daughters in Canada only has around 400, or 350, so it's about half the size. And to see so many women fully embracing their bodies, so many different body types, shapes, colors, ages, and we're all naked in the river together, not even thinking twice about insecurities and things that we have in our bodies. Now, that might not be true, actually. People might be experiencing insecurities, but it's like once it finally comes off, once the top comes off or the clothing comes off, I literally feel like the insecurities drop with it because there's something so beautiful about nakedness and the erotic innocence. We played naked as kids all the time, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's only as we start getting those ideas of shame and worrying of what others think about us that we start thinking being naked is weird. And especially in a group of all women, there is not a single man to be seen. And I just think the level of safety that permits is just so profound. On the last night of Spirit Weavers for the closing party, there was a big DJ party, and I will never forget this scene of just almost the entire audience that was dancing was either topless or fully naked, and young girls on the stage just in their fullest freedom and expression. And I was in awe. I had to sit down at one point and be like, wow, I've never seen anything like this. It literally felt like it blasted my heart wide, wide, wide open to experience that type of freedom and innocence without the perversion and just sexualized nature of our culture. And speaking of no men being around, I do want to also make clear that neither of these events were man-hating, which was really refreshing for me because I love men, and I think that there are a lot of really good men out in the world. I'm a big fan of Alison Armstrong's work. If you haven't read The Amazing Development of Men, it is such a great book just to give you some context into their life stages of their development, because it's very different than ours as women. And I was pleasantly surprised that both of these events were very pro men and acknowledged men and acknowledged that we want to live in a world where men can feel and men can grieve and we can show up for men. So go out there today and appreciate one of those good men in your life. Another detail of these festivals that I really loved was the red tent, a place to go if you're bleeding or if you just want some quiet, just a reprieve from the general electricity of the events themselves. And the red tents were just gorgeous. They would have books and resources on women's health. There would be chocolate and essential oils and tea and sheepskins and cozy pillows and blankets, and just a time to nourish yourself. Just a time to nourish yourself, which is so important at events like this. One thing that I was falling into, especially at Spirit Weavers, which was the first festival that I went to, was I got to do everything. I got to make the most of this. I got to do every workshop, every time slot that there is a workshop, I got to do one. And at Spirit Weavers, there's literally hundreds of workshops to choose from. They're really focused on crafts and skills, which I think is so cool. Actually, building something with your hands in community. How cool is that? And so I was like, packed my calendar. I had the little guidebook and I was highlighting everything. I'm going to do all of these. And the truth is, that part of me that's like the doer and the achiever, the truth is I needed to let her have a rest, because in an environment like this where I didn't know anybody, it's new territory. I had never even been to Oregon or to British Columbia in Canada. These are completely new lands to me, completely new environments. I had to give myself a break and say, you know what? Actually, I don't want to do another workshop today. I want to go lay naked in the river. And that was such a gift for me to have that experience of saying no, of turning down some of these incredible workshops and talks, and taking care of myself, going to the red tent, actually spending an hour just laying in there and soaking in the energy, and also slowing down enough to build in opportunities for prayer for myself throughout the day, time to sit with the land and to acknowledge the land, to put my hands on it and to honor it and to thank it for holding me. I feel that I am a completely different person than I was a couple years ago, probably from the last time I went to a music festival where it was just all about consumption and really no intentionality, which is, it's okay to do things like that as well. But when I was on the plane going to Spirit Weavers, I took some time to really drop into what my intentions were. And I do this before I go on any trip now. Before I'm traveling, I just think like, what would be really, really nourishing for me as a grounding rod to come back to if anytime I might feel lost, because I'm going out into the world, I'm leaving the coziness of my home where everything is pretty predictable, and I'm going into a space where there's other people's energies that I can be pretty sensitive to. So I love having a list of intentions before going on any kind of big trip or event or anything like that. And so speaking on taking care of yourself and setting these intentions, like that can all sound really like love and light and peace. But I will say, I had some really tough moments at both of these events. My insecurity monster was just rising up. And boy, did she have a lot to say, especially when I was finding myself dropping into comparison. You know, when you're around 800 women, goddesses, a lot of insecurities can come up. So for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have the right goddess clothes or natural fibers, linens, and silks. I don't have a cute handmade basket to bring around to all the vendors. I don't have one of these gorgeous hats and flower crowns that everyone's wearing. I don't know anyone, and many of the women there have been going for years and years and years. And is anyone even going to like me? Do I even belong here? Oh my God. And I even did know a few of the women there, and I was having that insecurity come up even with people who I already consider to be my friends. I was like, they don't really want to hang out with me. They didn't come with me. I mean, it's just so real. And I was in a workshop called Leaving the Cult of People Pleasing, which was so, so good. I'm going to tag, or I'll say her name now. Her name was Erica Wright, Wright. You should look her up. She's got amazing content, but she's so real and so raw. And I voiced my fear of that I didn't fit in, I didn't belong at the beginning of that class because she was asking for vulnerable shares. And so I didn't want to say anything, but I was like, you know what, whatever, let's do this. Let me get it out. And she asked anyone to raise their hand who had had a similar experience over the weekend of comparison and of feeling like they don't belong. Every single woman raised her hand. It was at least 20 women. I was sitting there, I was like, okay, we're all in this together. And sometimes the things that we feel are our biggest insecurities that keep us isolated are actually the through line that's running through everyone. So just an invitation to speak your vulnerability. If you're scared or feeling insecure or not sure if you belong there, speak it, because I guarantee you're not alone. And if you go back and listen to my episode on belonging with Sarah Kidwell, you'll hear a little bit more of my story, that belonging has always been a really touchy subject for me. So just even making the commitment to go to these events and to go by myself, I feel really proud that I'm at a point in my life where I will do that and take that risk, because it's almost like there's nothing to lose when you don't know anyone. You get to explore and see what it is that you really want to do instead of navigating the energy of group dynamics, which can sometimes be quite overwhelming, especially when there's a lot of different things to choose from. And if you find yourself attached to your group, then you just kind of get pulled along in every different direction. So also an invitation, if you've been considering going to an event like this, but haven't found anyone to go with you, go by yourself. It's a really brave thing to do. So these festivals were essentially two different flavors of something similar. Spirit Weavers, like I mentioned, is more skills focused and crafting, although there's still personal development workshops. Earth Daughters is really more personal development focused. Earth Daughters is about half the size of Spirit Weavers. They're both camping festivals and are situated in beautiful, epic nature along rivers with the option to get naked and swim in the rivers, which I was a little worried that I was like, oh, I'm not going to have a shower, but the river is all I needed. And there were showers actually at both, which I was pleasantly surprised. And there were saunas at both. There was delicious food. There's a whole lot of dancing, a whole lot of booty shaking and stomping on the ground and releasing. There is every kind of ritual and ceremony you could ever imagine, from grief ceremonies and cord cutting ceremonies and navigating pregnancy loss, which is just such a tender one, and such a beautiful place to receive that type of support. There's healing the matriarchal line, there's gardening skills, there's harvesting animal skills, there's fly fishing. I mean, the list just goes on and on, especially for spirit weavers, in terms of the spectrum of things that you can actually do and learn while you're there. And intention is so, so deeply woven into both of them. Just an honoring of the moon cycle, of our own cycles as women, of just honoring the different stages and phases of life of womanhood that is so beautiful to be around. They both had programs for young girls as well, for their rite of passage and initiation into womanhood, which it honestly brings tears to my eyes and such a deep place in my heart of wanting young women to really love that they are a woman and that they're entering into their reproductive years, and for that to be so celebrated and so honored and like this really important step in maturing. It was just really refreshing to see that and to see the entire festival gather around the young girls to lift them up. Just such an epic life experience. I pray that I have daughters that I can bring to something like this. Just a few reflections as we wrap up here. I'd love for you to consider the question of what kind of elder and what kind of ancestor do you want to be? It's a question that I have been meditating on since those events, and I can't say enough how powerful it's been for me to spend time around older women consistently. I really feel that that's going to be one of the greatest things that I can look back on in my life when I am an elder, of knowing that I had guides to walk with me and that I wasn't alone. I also just want to reiterate that even in these spaces built for ultimate freedom, like these festivals are, insecurity still comes up. And that's okay. There's space for that too. And it's totally normal. And lastly, just touching on, these are training grounds for curiosity and compassion. Just an opportunity to be completely off of your phone and present in the moment, where you get to meet women from all walks of life, from all different cultures and backgrounds, all different types of professions and different types of healing arts. And there's really so much to take away from all of the in-between moments. So yes, the workshops were amazing. I took so many notes. I was such a good student. I let myself rest and have my alone time. But some of my favorite moments were just the conversations where I just got to drop in with another woman and learn something about her life or her experience at the event that just really brought in connection between us. So if you've been curious about what it's like to attend an all-women's festival, I hope that this episode gave you a little bit more clarity and maybe a little bit of courage to think about going next year. I certainly plan to go back and really cherish this time as a time for growth, a time for development, for rest, for nourishment. I came out of those with such a fueled fire of ideas. And now, just a couple months later, I have essentially a whole new business launching. I have been actively a part of different women's circles here locally and feeling like way less fear in just putting myself out there and reaching out to women, because I've gotten to really see the magic that women hold, and doing it in like the village setting where we get to craft and dance and play and cry together is so powerful. And on a personal note, a little personal update from me, it feels really good to be back and to be sharing with you guys. I'm still figuring out exactly what my relationship is to content creation, to be honest with you, because I love sharing, but sometimes when I feel there's a bit too much pressure that I put on myself, I just have to put it down and take a break. So I appreciate your patience for this next episode and your continued listening whenever new episodes release. It truly is an honor to walk alongside this path with you. I have been doing a 30-day everyday posting challenge on Instagram. So if you are not following me on Instagram, you can really stay up to date with what's going on in my life there. I share pretty much everything also, which feels really good, but I love this more long form content. I'm also getting really excited for a couple of guests that we'll have here on the Birthright podcast very soon. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for spending your time with me. And I am sending out so many blessings your way. See you next time.